Welcome to JPL Orange Cuisine, and today I'm doing a McQuestest for the McBestest mashed potatoes. So the first thing that I tried was just regular old mashed potatoes, and this is simple enough. You got some russet potatoes, you got some milk, you got some butter, and you have some salt and pepper you eventually put in it, and all you gotta do is just peel the potatoes, cut them up, put them in a pot, boil them for a while, and then mash them, and then just mix it up with some butter that's melting while they're still hot, and pour in some hot milk, and then salt and pepper them, and then, bam, you're done, Simple, classic, pretty decent taste, pretty reliable, and pretty affordable. So I like this, Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. I also tried making regular mashed potatoes, but with yellow potatoes instead of the russet or white potatoes. And I know that usually the russet potatoes are preferred, but I just wanted to try it with the yellow ones anyway, just to see how it turned out. And I mean, it's not that much more expensive. It tastes, in my opinion, good. It's different, but it's still equally good. I think it's perfectly fine to make mashed potatoes either way. I guess traditionally I do like the russet potatoes a little bit better, but I think the yellow potatoes are nice just to sort of mix things up and have some variety every now and then. Now, one of the other things you can do while making mashed potatoes is put in a spice mix for some sort of added flavor. And these spice mixes are usually things that are made for creating dips or ranch mixes and such. And so I just have to say that, make sure that you mix them really well because they're meant to sort of absorb liquid, they're a choking hazard or something. Do this at your own risk. So the first seasoning mix that I tried was this Hidden Valley Ranch Fiesta Ranch seasoning mix. And even though it's, again, meant to be for, creating salad dressing or something like that, I go ahead and put them into my potatoes. I mix them really well and it adds sort of like a flavor to it. This one turned out to be not too bad. I kind of liked it. So another one that I tried was this Hill Country Fare, which is the HEB brand. Ranch dip mix. I put 2 of them into some regular potatoes, mixed them up. I like this flavor a lot. I like it better than the Fiesta Ranch that I tried earlier. This turned out to be pretty affordable too. I like this one a lot. I also tried it with the Hidden Valley Ranch mix, just the regular Fiesta mix, and this turned out good. I think I like the Fiesta Ranch a little bit better, but the Fiesta one was pretty good too. And the last one that I tried was this Tony Colacheers. I can't say it. I'm too Texan. But it's this Creole Seasoning I found at HEB. And I tried putting some of that into some mashed potatoes. And this turned out really good. I like this quite a lot. Also, I think it's more economical than the other spice mixes and such. And I do like the sort of Creole Seasoning. I like the flavor, I like the taste. I like this a lot. I think it's an interesting idea. So anyway, adding some spice mixes to your mashed potatoes can enhance the flavor a little bit. And it usually doesn't cost too much extra. So I found another way to make mashed potatoes from this recipe I found from a website called Lauren's Latest. And this is called Perfect Mashed Potatoes. And for the ingredients, it's really the same as making regular mashed potatoes, but it has cream cheese added in. And to me, this was a really interesting idea, and I actually really like this a lot. I think it added a lot of flavor. It was a lot more, a lot more rich. It tasted just, I don't know how to describe it. It was creamier, but also more filling, and it's really a genius idea to add in a little bit of cream cheese to mashed potatoes. I thought this was a genius idea, and I like this a lot. It also, just with a little bit of cream cheese, didn't make the mashed potatoes too much more expensive, and I think that, bang for your buck, it added a lot, and it wasn't too complicated either, because it's just adding one more ingredient to mashed potatoes. Now, as soon as I tried Lauren's Latest, the next thing that I thought about was actually adding some mascarpone. And I do remember from a long time ago there was an Italian recipe for some kind of mashed potatoes that included mascarpone, but I couldn't find it, and I don't remember where it's from. I think it's from some old, 1960s cookbook. But anyway, this actually ended up tasting, I think, a little bit better than adding cream cheese, but mascarpone is way more expensive, and I really didn't think it was worth it, to be honest. I think it's an interesting idea to try, but I kind of like Lauren's Latest better. I like the idea of adding the cream cheese in because it's a lot more affordable, and, I guess that's that. So another recipe I found was for jalapeno cheese mashed potatoes. This is from a website called Hilah Cooking, and it's got some, it's potatoes and garlic and butter and green onions, jalapenos, and some cream, and I ended up using half and half, and you need some salt and a little bit of cheddar. And to me, this turned out to be absolutely excellent. This was absolutely delicious. It was spicy. It was the cheese was the combination of the spice from the jalapenos and the cheese and the potatoes. This was really, really, really tasty. Also, you can when you make it, you can put it in a kind of like a serving dish and put some cheese on top and have it melted in like the broiler or in your oven or something, which I did try once, and that was really, really good. I like this recipe a lot. I think it's really good. It does take a little bit more effort, but I think it's worth it. Now, a similar recipe to the last one that I found was from a website called Homemade Home, and this was also jalapeno cheddar mashed potatoes, but this one uses baby red potatoes as opposed to russet ones, and it also has, the cheese and then, jalapenos, butter, and sour cream and such. And this I thought was absolutely amazing too. I just put in my notes, wow, this was really, really tasty. I actually think that the red potatoes are slightly better for this type of recipe. I do like the taste a lot more, but I mean, it's kind of like splitting hairs here. I think they're both really excellent. So the next recipe I tried was from a website called The Stay-at-Home Chef, and it's for these steakhouse-style garlic mashed potatoes. Now, if you've ever been to Outback Steakhouse, I forget what it's called, but they do have a side dish that's something like the garlic mashed potatoes, and it's like mashed red potatoes with this roasted garlic and such. And that seems to be what this reminded me of. And, it's got red potatoes, and you boil the potatoes in chicken broth instead of water, which I thought was a pretty interesting idea. And this recipe also calls for buttermilk. Now, H-E-B was out of buttermilk when I went to go buy my ingredients. And what I ended up doing instead was I just used some milk with some melted butter mixed together. That's sort of like a substitute. And the only other thing I did with this recipe is that I thought that the amount of salt that they asked for was a little too low. I ended up using a considerable amount more because they only call for 1 teaspoon of salt. And I used several tablespoons just because I guess I'm a salty person, But anyway, this ended up being really, really good. This was really tasty. I liked it a lot. Now, the last recipe I tried was from a website called Food 52. And I was actually looking for something called Pomme's Puree, which I think is an old French recipe. It basically means potato puree. And it's a French way of making mashed potatoes. And you use yellow potatoes, although I think traditionally you're supposed to use these French fingerling potatoes. I ended up using yellow potatoes because they're a decent substitute. And I remember a recipe I found a long time ago that may have been in Julia Child's book, ended up using something like 4 sticks of butter, which was a little too high. And so when I looked for a new recipe to try, I looked for one that had a more sensible amount of butter in it. But really, it's just, it's just the ingredients of potatoes, butter, milk, cream, and salt. It's not that many ingredients, but it's all in how you make it. And traditionally, when you make this puree, the trick is that you boil the potatoes with the skin on, and then you put them through a potato ricer. So you will need a potato ricer in order to make this. And it does end up being a very smooth, very tasty mashed potato. This is really good. What I really like about this recipe is that it does taste better than regular mashed potatoes, but the difference between it and regular mashed potatoes is mostly in the preparation and the amount of work and the fact that you need a potato ricer. And so as long as you have that potato ricer around, it's just a lot more effort. It doesn't really cost too much more compared to regular mashed potatoes. The extra taste is really just in the extra effort and how you prepare it. And that's really the thing that I like the most about this. Also, it's a very traditional dish. I think you should probably try it at least once just for that reason alone, as long as you have the potato ricer handy or you can borrow someone. So of all of them, I'm not sure this is really my favorite because others were kind of more tasty, but I did really like this a lot. So now it's time for some comparisons and conclusions. Now, the regular mashed potatoes and the yellow mashed potatoes both were pretty straightforward and simple to make. Both end up being an adjusted price per day of just 70 and 71 cents. And so, I mean, they're both really affordable options. They're the cheapest options available because, you don't need many ingredients. And they make, it's a good, reliable way to make mashed potatoes. Now, in terms of the spice mixes, all of them turned out pretty good. They do cost a bit more to make. The Creole Seasoning and the H-E-B salad dressing mix, ironically, were like the most cost-effective compared to the Hidden Valley Ranch mixes. And I think those actually tasted better. So my conclusion here is that adding the spice mixes, the H-E-B ranch salad dressing mix, or adding some sort of Creole seasoning, or really any spice mix that you can buy that's not too expensive, it's a good idea to try it. And if you like the spice mix, you'll probably like adding in a little bit to your mashed potatoes once in a while, just to mix things up a little bit. Lauren's latest, to me, this was really like probably the most excellent bang for your buck type of improvement over regular mashed potatoes. I mean, it's simple enough, just add some cream cheese. I did want to make a point there that I let the cream cheese come to room temperature before doing it because it did make it easier to mash and to mix it together. And other than that, it's a great recipe. It doesn't really cost too much more than regular mashed potatoes. It's just $1.02 per serving. So, I mean, that's not too bad at all. Adding the mascarpone in, to me, like I said earlier, it's just not worth it. So the halal cooking, the jalapeno cheese mashed potatoes, I like those a lot. It was a bit expensive, but I think if you like spicy food, it's worth trying. Same with the homemade home jalapeno cheddar. It's really the same thing. I think those actually ended up being probably the tastiest of them all, really, to be honest with you. It was the most expensive way to make mashed potatoes that I tried, costing $1 with 89 cents per serving. But I think if you like spicy food, it's worth it. The halal cooking one was a little bit less expensive. I don't think it tasted as good, but it's still really good. So, I mean, there's that. Now, the stay-at-home chef Steakhouse mashed potato recipe, I thought that was also excellent. A little bit pricey at $1 with 52 cents, but I do like it. I think it was pretty tasty. It was one of the tastiest ones that I made. And the Pomme Puree, the Food 52 recipe, I really think this might be one of the better ones just because it was one of the best tasting recipes that I tried, and really it wasn't that much more expensive. It actually was, considering how little it cost, it really tasted incredibly good. And I do like the Food 52 recipe because it's not 4 sticks of butter. It's it's a sensible amount. I like that idea a lot. If you're a little less health conscious, you might find a more traditional recipe that uses more butter and that maybe it tastes better. But in any case, I like this a lot. So I think in terms of taste, the winner here is homemade home, and number 2 is the Pomme Puree, and then really the Steakhouse, and then the halal cooking, and I've got the ranking here on this image here, so you can take a look at it. But I think that all these recipes, at a minimum, they were good, and some of them are absolutely excellent. So I think in terms of mashed potatoes, make the choice and balance between, it's kind of a balancing act between, do you want the best tasting ones? Do you want like the most affordable ones? And, where is that for you? And do you like spicy food? I guess that's another consideration. So anyway, I guess those are my conclusions for today. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. Please like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from JPL Orange Cuisine. And until next time, I bid you adieu. Video over!